Welcome to Riding Counsel with Rich Jaffe, where the open road meets expert advice. I'm Richard Jaffe, an attorney and biking enthusiast, and this is the podcast where we dive into the world of motorcycling, safety, culture, charitable giving, and riding right. So, whether you're a seasoned rider or just getting started, let's talk bikes, the road, and everything in between. Let's ride! All right. Hello, everyone in ridingcounsel.com land. Listen, everybody. Are you thinking about buying a used motorcycle? You want to hand over your cash and not know what the heck you're doing? Before you hand over your cash that you worked so hard on, before you fall for a shiny paint job, listen up. Listen up. This actually could save you a lot of money. It could give you a lot of good tips about buying a used motorcycle. And honestly, this could save your life because I don't want you out there buying the wrong motorcycle. So my name is Rich Jaffe, and I am a motorcycle enthusiast. I am a podcaster here on ridingcounsel.com, and I am a lawyer discussing all things motorcycle. And I actually represent a lot of people who are injured as a result of motorcycle accidents. And I love getting calls from you because that means you trust me. But at the same time, it's a big responsibility. So I hate to hear when anybody's hurt. But I have a really special guest here today with me. And instead of me babbling and trying to cover everything about him, I wanted him to introduce himself. Hello, and welcome to ridingcounsel.com. Thanks so much for coming on. Who are you? What do you do? Where do you do it?
Yeah. Hi, my name's Dave. I've been a professional motorcycle coach for 25 years. I taught state basic and experienced rider courses for about a decade. Then I moved from that and I started doing racetrack instruction. I'm currently a champion certified coach with Yamaha Champ School. I'm certified with USMCA. Worked in multiple motorcycle shops over the years. I've currently been doing it for a lot of years. I run the YouTube channel Canyon Chasers, which is really focused on our whole mission is basically how do we grow the sport? And I think the best way to grow the sport is getting people good riding technique, right? There's so much bad information out there. You're on YouTube, you're on the Reddit, you're on the Facebook. There's so much horrible advice. And then I think, people have to be excited about and get the right motorcycle, right? It doesn't, if you're on the wrong motorcycle, the bike, you don't like it, whatever, you're not going to want to ride, So that's a big part of what I do. So I work with a lot of the manufacturers doing, bike tests. I've done tire tests with some of the companies and stuff like that. So yeah, lifelong motorcycle nerd.
So you know what you're talking about. I mean, you've been around, you're certified. I mean, it's not like you just ride and sitting there saying, okay, I've ridden for 80 years and this way I know what I'm doing, but you actually got educated. And it's a really good thing to see. I think more people should actually go out there and get certified like you.
Right. We see that a lot, right? People like, oh, I've been riding for 30 years. And like, oh, I have 30 years experience. No, you don't. You have 1 year of experience repeated 30 times.
Yeah.
And that's a real challenge a lot of riders face because they'll be like, they'll use a technique that's potentially really dangerous. Yeah. And they're like, oh, but I've gotten away with it for 30 years. And I'm like, yeah, that's great until you don't, right? Like to me, everything about motorcycling is about mitigating risk. How do we reduce risk so I can increase my enjoyment of the sport? I don't want to get hurt. The older you get, a fall or an injury gets more expensive, not necessarily financially, but a broken collarbone, right? I'm in my 50s. I get injured. I'm off the motorcycle and I can't exercise for 2 months.
Right.
That costs me a lot in fitness, and time's precious. And these things really matter. And,
right.
When you do it the right way, you increase the enjoyment. The whole experience is better. You're happier. You're more in control, and everything's just better about it, right?
Yeah, man. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about making this journey on a motorcycle a little better for everyone. And there's a lot of advantages and some disadvantages when you're going out there and talking about a used motorcycle, especially buying one. So can you talk a little bit about what's some of the advantages and disadvantages in buying a used motorcycle?
Well, the biggest advantage, and I think it's it's cheaper, right? It's a financial savings. And, if you're into like rare or obscure motorcycles, you can find something that you just can't get new on the market anymore. And right. So, but I think for most people, motorcycling, especially in America, it's a recreational activity. It's not something we do out of necessity. So saving some cash sometimes can make all the difference.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that's the big one, saving money. I mean, as soon as you get a new motorcycle, you drive it off the lot. I mean, you lost a few thousand right there, you know. So, but it's the nature of the beast, But buying a used motorcycle certainly will save you. But there's so many things that can go wrong when you buy a used motorcycle. I've seen so many people say they've been scammed. I mean, what are some of the telltale signs like a deal might be a scam?
Well, I mean, I think the biggest thing is you have to trust your gut, right? There's so many ways to be scammed with buying something used, right? We talk about, well, buying used, I can maybe save some cash on the purchase price, but it may not end up being necessarily cheaper, right? We always joke in my world about the previous owner, right? The previous owner did all these like customizations and upgrades and stuff like that. And you can spend thousands of dollars trying to correct that. And so, like the ways to get scammed, theft, right? There's scams on eBay. People buy frames and like a frame with a clean title, and then they can move the stolen motorcycle parts onto the clean title. And there's just a gazillion different scams out there. But I think the biggest scam that gets people in trouble is like maintenance or lack of maintenance or really bodgy fixes that you may not spot right off the bat. And then you end up with like a problem child. And you're like, I don't want this albatross motorcycle that never runs. It has all these issues. Right. And you're like, again, my whole goal is to get more people riding and enjoying the sport. And if you're with a motorcycle that's just a hateful experience, where's the joy in that?
Yeah, absolutely not. I mean, there's just none. I mean, but it's so hard to tell if maintenance has been done. I mean, look, if somebody says, I did all my maintenance at the local Harley Davidson shop, okay, well, you can get a printout of that. But if they say I did it all myself, I- what do you do? Do you ask them for receipts or something? I mean, how do you guard against that?
Well, and even if they have all the receipts, that can't be faked. You can't, manufacture something like that. Especially with AI, you can go to AI and be like, "Hey, generate."
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just
right.
it's not hard. So you have to know a little bit about what you're looking at before you go in, right? And I think
Mm.
one of the things that helps, and most people don't do this, right, is figure out what you want before you even start shopping, right? And then become an expert on that model, right? So let's say you're looking at, you want a Sportster or something like that. Or I'm not as familiar with cruisers. I don't spend as much time with cruisers. You're obviously a cruiser guy. But let's go to something like a Honda Rebel, right? I want the new generation Honda Rebel. And you go in, you become an expert on it, and you find out, well, maybe the first model year had issues with the fuel pump, or maybe it had an issue with this or that, right? So you learn everything that it is about the bikes you're interested in. So when you go in and look at a used one, you're going to zero right in on known problem areas, right? And then the other point that I think is this is even more important is when you're looking at a used motorcycle, you want to talk yourself out of it. You don't want it, right? You're looking for every excuse not to buy it. You look in there like you you know you if you have your heart set on it before you walk up to the bike, it's going to be a lot harder for you to be objective, right?
So essentially, convince yourself that this is not the right bike for you and see if you can somehow challenge yourself as opposed to going in so emotionally charged that you're going to buy the bike no matter what, right? So I guess you're kind of saying don't be so eager to look over the little things.
Right. So like if I go in looking at a used motorcycle and my attitude as I go in is there's something wrong with it. I don't want to buy it. There's going to be a problem with it. And as you look over it, and you look at, okay, let's look at the fork seals. Let's look at the tires. Let's look at the rotors. You just start looking over. You get your flashlight and you're looking at all the nooks and crannies and you're like, wow, there's no oil leaking. Everything's clean. The brake pads look brand new. The tires were just changed. The chain's in awesome shape. It's clean. And you can't find any problems, right? You're going to be like, oh, maybe it isn't okay. You're just kind of approaching it from the other side.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let me tell you what I've purchased a couple of used motorcycles in my time. But what scares me, honestly, is these deals where they say, okay, look, cash only, bring it, and no test rides without handing me over the cash. I got to be honest with you, that like kind of stops me in my tracks because here I am carrying a significant amount of cash. I'm going to a neighborhood that I don't know very well, and I don't know who's going to be there. So I feel like I'm putting myself in a dangerous spot even before I see the bike. Any takes on that?
You really are. And again, so you can do like public meetups and things like that to try to mitigate that. But again, I totally trust my instinct. If I'm going into the neighborhood, and we've all been to those neighborhoods, right? And you're like, I don't want to like leave my car parked here. You got to trust your gut, because the number one thing is you got to protect yourself. And when it comes to test rides, I'll be honest with you. I don't ask for them and I don't offer them, right? Because there is so much risk with a test ride. You know, you go in there like, okay, let's say the guy's like, yeah, sure, take it for a ride. Okay, I'm on an unfamiliar motorcycle in an unfamiliar neighborhood, and Lord knows what the actual maintenance is on this thing, right? And so you're like, oh, let me get up and like, oh, let me test the brakes. And you're like, oh, crap. It has like a blown seal in the brake caliper. So it spuges oil all over, brake fluid all over your brake rotor. And now you just like, and now you just crashed a motorcycle that you probably didn't want to buy. And you're just stuck in this situation.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So going back to, I do my research before I look at the motorcycle. I go in with the attitude, I don't want to buy it. And then I look over it with a fine tooth comb. And if I'm not comfortable at that point, there's nothing a test ride that's going to tell me that I don't already know. And so I just don't, if like, I don't know, or if I'm not sure I want this bike, or I don't know how it's going to ride, maybe it handles funny. If I look at all the things I look at and like, oh, well, the steering stem stops right on the handlebars. They're bent. They can tell they've been hit a couple times. That means it's been crashed. There's scratches on the bottoms of the fork legs. That's a telltale sign it's been crashed. The bottoms of the engine cases, nobody ever gets on their hands and knees and looks at the bottom of the engine cases. Telltale sign it's been crashed. If all those things are there, or if they're clear, I already know, if it's all scratched and the steering stem's been hit and all those factors, a test ride's not going to tell me anything I already don't know. And then it's up for me to decide, do I want to buy a bike that's been crashed, right? Maybe the price is so good I'm willing to take that on. Or for me personally, I want nothing to do with it. You're like, okay, thanks, I'm good, and walk away. So I'm very opposed to the whole test ride thing, just because of the amount of risk you open yourself up to.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. It really is a risky thing. And, I'm also the kind of guy that tries to do as much as I can before I actually make the visit or go out there and, make the effort carrying around all this kind of cash. There are certain pieces of paperwork that really should come with the bike. Let's talk about that. What do you think are some absolute musts when it comes to paperwork? Maybe you should get a copy of before you go see the bike.
Well, you can do like the VIN research things. You can do like a VIN search. Um, and, one of the big, going back to scams, one of the scams you're seeing a lot now is, if you're selling a bike, people say, here, do this VIN research for me. Show me that this thing has a clear VIN. And they send you a link to a very credible looking VIN research website. But if you go look at the whois.sc, which tells you how old a website is, like it was propped up a day ago. So it's just a way to steal your credit card information. So don't do your own VIN research beforehand. Don't, like go find a credible, I think vhix.com, but even those, I don't think really tell you everything, the VIN research. I want to see the title in hand, right? And the title in hand is going to tell me if it's branded or not, which means it's a salvage title, which means it's already been crashed and written off by insurance at some point in time. If there's a lien on the bike and the bank has the title, that's just another layer of hassle and risk that you're walking into, and you have to make that decision if that's the level of risk you're willing to take. I'm typically not. I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to deal with the consequences of, if I can't see the title, I can't verify that it's a clear title. If I can't verify the VIN on the title, on the frame, on the engine, they all match and everything's looking good, it's just too much risk, because you end up with a bike with a branded title. Most insurance companies won't insure it. That means that bike is really only capable for off-road use, like a race bike or a track bike. Maybe that's what you're looking for. That's totally fine. Or like a show bike that you just look at you hang it on your living room wall and look at it because it's pretty, right?
Yeah, so like, just because something has on the title it says salvage doesn't mean that you shouldn't buy the bike. But if it says salvage and you're expecting a brand new bike, then you got a problem. I mean, salvage bikes do have their place in the world if you're just looking for something, I don't know, to run around in the backyard and
Track bikes,
yeah,
almost
yeah.
like track bikes. Like if you want to do track time, which I'm a big proponent in track time, it's a great way to really enhance your skill. Track bikes aren't licensed, they aren't registered, right? So a lot of us go buy salvage title bikes for track bikes. They're awesome for that.
Right. But again, you got to know what you're getting because just like you said, I mean, anything can be switched. They could say it's one VIN and then just stick out some stolen parts on the bike. And there's so many things that can happen. You really are taking a risk. So, what about buying a used bike from, let's say, a dealer?
When you buy a used bike from a dealer, you're mitigating a lot of the problems, right? I mean, you're going to pay a little bit more for it. There's going to be an upcharge and they're going to, but especially if it's a reputable shop and it's pretty easy to search like Google reviews and see how reputable it is. It's pretty safe to bet that their technician has looked at it at least cursory and gone over it pretty quick. Maybe you're not super experienced, you're not super mechanically comfortable. They're going to look at it. Something goes wrong. You can go back to him and be like, hey, the freaking valve cover blew off as soon as, like, you're like, oh, okay, we're so sorry. You're going to pay a little bit of a premium for it. But also buying from a dealership, there are some other things you kind of have to pay attention to because even reputable dealerships will do little tricks to try to increase their profit. They're going to do things like, oh, we're going to etch the body panels with the serial number. So if it gets stolen, we can find the body panels anymore. And they'll charge you. It's worthless. It has no value whatsoever, but they'll charge you for it as like a theft recovery safety thing. It's pointless. Or, gap insurance. Gap insurance is a really big moneymaker for a lot of dealerships. So, if you can't afford it, maybe if you're looking, I got to have gap insurance in case of whatever, maybe that's too much of a bike to buy. That's more money than you should be getting into. So paying attention to all these other little nuances. Even a reputable shop will do things to even the value. Some shops will inflate the used value. They have some shops will have two NADA blue books, right? One for buyers and one for sellers. You go in to trade in your bike and they show you one book and you're like, yeah, the bike's only worth $3,000. And you're like, oh, it's in the book. Okay. Then when you go to buy that exact same motorcycle, they have another book and they pull it out and they go through it and you're like, it's worth $6,000. And you're like, oh, well, the book says $6,000, So again, doing your due diligence, researching the bike that you're interested in can save you just a ton of effort or a ton of risk is really what we're trying to mitigate.
So do you have some sites that maybe people might be able to check out to see if the asking price and the selling price might be in line with what really is reasonable?
So, you can always go to like NADA guides and Blue Book guides. Those are like your starting point. But more accurate than that is look at eBay used bikes, look at Facebook Marketplace, look at Cycle Trader, and see what the asking price is on a lot of these bikes. That's going to tell you more because markets fluctuate and markets can fluctuate from region to region. In some parts of the country, sport bikes have absolutely no value. And in other parts of the country, sport bikes are unbelievably popular. And that's going to determine how much it's worth, right? Because what's the old saying? It's worth whatever somebody's willing to pay for it. And then, especially with motorcycles, the condition is the biggest part of determining value. Like a bike that's been knocked over 3 times. Okay, it's a year old and it has 5,000 miles on it. It's, a relatively low mileage bike, but it's been knocked over 3 times. That determines the value far more than the age and mileage. Whereas on the flip side, I have motorcycles that are kind of special or unique and they don't get ridden a whole lot. So, okay, it's 13 years old, but it only has 3,000 miles on it and it has brand new tires And you're like, oh, but it's a 13-year-old motorcycle. It's only worth this. But you're like, no, in reality, it's actually worth that, because condition is everything.
Man, a lot of helpful information. I really appreciate it. And, I want to make sure to get your YouTube channel out there. And I'm going to put, for all you watchers, I'm going to put all the information down here about your YouTube channel. So, how do people get in touch with you if they want to watch your YouTube channel, or if they want to somehow or other get in touch with you, ask you some questions, because you really seem like an expert on this issue?
We're pretty easy to find. I'm just Canyon Chasers. I put most of my effort into YouTube, but you can find me on Instagram. I think we might still have a Facebook page, but YouTube is really where I'm at. And we also have a website, Canyon Chasers, so you can always find me through there as well.
So canyonchasers.com.
Or .net or .org or
Wow. Yeah.
all of them
That's
go to the
great.
same place. Yeah,
That's
you can just
great.
Google search Canyon Chasers. I'm pretty easy to find.
Okay, and yeah, I'm sure those links to your YouTube and everything else
Oh yeah,
from your
YouTube will
website.
come up first, because that's where like all of the energy is.
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing. Okay, well, people, listen, if you out there really enjoyed this, if you got some value out of it, do me a favor, drop a comment. I respond to all comments, and like, subscribe, share. And, I'd really love to hear from you. Okay. And you can always get me at ridingcounsel.com, ridingcounsel.com. But that's going to do it for this episode of ridingcounsel.com. I hope some of the information we got out to you is really helpful to you. And make sure to share it with your friends. Until next time, everybody, ride free, ride safe, but, do so legally. Take care, everybody. And that's a wrap for this episode of Riding Counsel with Richard Jaffe. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed the ride, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share with your fellow riders. Until next time, keep the rubber side down and ride safe.